Alright, in today's class, we're starting our HTML class with this lesson. And here we'll be talking about introduction to HTML, the definition of HTML, what HTML is, the concept of HTML, why do we use HTML, and then we'll also talk about the basic structure of the HTML page. So let's ride into it. What is HTML? HTML, it's a short form of hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language. It is a standard language which is used to create and design web pages, and it also forms the foundation of the web page by structuring the content and allowing browsers to interpret with each other. It also allows browsers to display text, to display images, to display links and other elements. So basically, without the HTML in the browser becomes useless. So in other words, we can say that the HTML is what actually makes the browser a living being. Okay? So without the HTML in any browser, the browser becomes a dormant entity, a dormant element. And so another thing we must also know is that the HTML is not a programming language, but it is regarded as a markup language. This is because by saying HTML is a markup language, it's a markup language because it helps to organize and label the content you're using on your browsers rather than executing them in a logical operation. So it is not a programming language but a markup language that helps you to link from one page to another page. Alright? So as we talk about the HTML, we can also say that it is the only language that is recognized by the web browser. Just like humans have their own kind of language that binds them together, that unites them together, the same way the web browser has its own language in the form of a markup language that helps it perform its operation. Okay? Imagine a world without a language that actually unites everyone together. So imagine that kind of world. Okay? Of course, you know that it's going to be a chaotic world. Alright? So imagine a browser without a unifying language. Okay? So it automatically becomes very difficult for that browser to work. And probably we may not even have what we call the World Wide Web. Alright? So the HTML is a very, very important part of the World Wide Web. And it is very important, and because it is important, that's why we are introducing you to it. And we also want to teach it so that every one of you will actually know how the browser works. Alright then, so let's look at the HTML document itself, how it looks, what is the structure like. Alright, so let's look at it. We're making use of the Visual Code. We're going to be making use of the Visual Code editor. It's one of the editors that I so much involved, and many of us who are into programming, who are into software development, prefer using this because of its benefit and because of its easy use. Alright, so we're making use of the Visual Code Studio editor. So let's look at, when we talk about HTML, how does it look like? What's the structure like? Okay. So just like virtually everything in the world today has its own structure, and basically you know a certain thing by the structure it possesses or it carries. Okay. There are times that when you look at a certain building, from the structure you're able to know that this is the name of the building. Alright. When you see a bungalow, you know it by its structure. When you see a two-story building, you know it by its structure. When you see a skyscraper, you know that this is a skyscraper because of its structure. when you come into the field of professions, when you see a certain man, the way he dresses, okay, of course you know that this man belongs to this particular profession, alright, because of the structure, alright. So when we talk about the HTML document, it has its own unique structure, such that once you see it, you will certainly know that this is an HTML structure. So let's look at it. So if you look at the screen, you see what the HTML document actually looks like. Okay, the HTML document begins with the doc type HTML. Alright, the doc type HTML. What does this stand for in the HTML document? This tells the browser that the page that you're working on actually uses HTML5, which is the latest version of the HTML. Before now, we do have other versions of HTML, okay, HTML3 and the likes. But what actually differentiates this latest version from other version is what we have here. Okay, so with this doc type, it actually tells the browser that this particular application or software was actually designed using this latest version of the HTML. So there's no big deal there. Next is the HTML itself, the HTML tags. Okay, the HTML tag. This is the root element that wraps all HTML content. With this HTML tag, let me remove this for now. So with this HTML tag, right, we call this an opening tag, and then we call this a closing tag. The truth about HTML is that for every tag or element that you write, it must always have what we call an opening tag, and then it must have a closing tag. We're going to be talking about that extensively in the coming class. Okay, so we're simply looking at the structure of an HTML. So let's just stay with this. So what this talks about is saying that, okay, we are opening. It's like, okay, let me give an example. Let's say, let's say we have the three kind of bags. All right, I want to put them in. Let's say you have some books, and then you want to shelve them. You want to arrange them, okay, accordingly for easy access, for easy organization. So what do? Now you begin to think of how do you arrange them such that next time when you want to access them, it becomes very easy for you to access. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, okay, you're going to put them in a shelf. Okay, then within that shelf, you want to ask yourself this question: these books, or this book that I want to put inside the shelf, where am I going to put it? Do I put it among the accounting books, or do I put it among the business books, or do I put it among the science book, and all that? Okay, so now you divide your shelf according to the courses that are available. Alright, so when you do that, what you're simply doing is that you're trying to create a kind of structure for the arrangement of your book. Alright, so the shelf itself is called a bookshelf. That's going to be housing every book that you're going to put in. Then within that shelf, you're now going to have a structure. You're going to have a kind of division, alright, so that those books are properly arranged. So with this one now, as we come to HTML structure, it's having this HTML tag, alright, the system or the structure will actually tell the browser that we actually have going to have HTML documents, alright, that everything we are going to do is actually going to be HTML document. Alright, so within the HTML document, it is also divided into two aspects, just like what I discussed about the shelf. Alright, so within the HTML document, we have two aspects. We have what we call the header tag, and then we have what we call the body tag. Alright, so the head tag here is where you actually have the metadata about the page. When we talk about metadata, we're talking about where you actually describe everything about that page, the description of that page, okay, in form of the title and then the links to the style sheets of the page. So particularly we're talking about the description you give to that page that you're working on will be done within the header tag. Alright, so we also have the title within the head tag. Then next is the body tag. The body tag is where the content that will be displayed on the web page, okay, is actually coded or written. Okay. If you look at the web page, you understand that the web page contains text, images, videos, and others. Alright, so if you want to display your text, your images, your videos, and every other thing that you want people to see on the web page, then you actually do them within the body tag. So basically, this is what the HTML structure is all about. So why are we making use of the HTML? Why is this so important to use the HTML? This is because it is the foundation of all web pages. Like I said earlier, without the HTML, there is no structure for the browser to display. And if there are no browsers, then there is no way we can have the World Wide Web, where we're going to be having links, where we're going to be having interactions with the server. Okay, so this is why it is very important for us to actually know what the HTML is and what it does. Alright, so on this note, I'm going to be stopping this lesson here today. In the next class, we'll be talking about something else. So I'll see you in the next class.